After that, I met this band, Blink-182. I went on tour with them and became really good friends with them, and they got really big really fast.
Jason White here with the Nashville Way, and we have a special guest today, someone who has been in the industry, and I'll introduce him in a second. But like we talked in the touring section, there are so many great things to experience on the road, musically, being around the world, just experiencing life. That's the great thing. But I'm gonna give you the pain point and some of the hard things that happen on the road, some of the tough things. And we wanna talk about that today because honestly, a lot of the pitfalls on the road can hurt or destroy the good things about being on the road, about touring, about sharing your music with the world. And I, in the Nashville Way, want you to know what those things are. So we're gonna dive into touring. We have Mr. Derek Gordon with us today. Derek, you've got a wealth of experience in touring, from being guitar tech to manager to just, you'll go through that, but we want to give you all the real goods, the real understanding, the life experience from people who have been on the road and know what things help and what things hurt you so that you can be successful and have a successful life. We always talk about this. A successful life in the music business is not just making the money and being famous. That sounds obvious, but that's what people think. But that is not what makes you a successful person or an artist. There are so many other aspects to that. So we're gonna dive into that today. So Mr. Derek Gordon is here. Derek, give us share with us really quick. What you've been through, where you've been, what you've done. Give us a little information, some insight.
My whole life has been music. I mean, from the age of 17, I got a job at a club. I got an offer from a band called the Vandals, a punk rock band, to leave my job at a grocery store and go on the road and be their guitar tech and set up equipment on stage. I left. My parents were like, "What are you doing? You're leaving your insurance." I had full health insurance. I worked at a grocery store. I was ready to work in the deli department. It was a big deal. And
nice.
And I was leaving. They're like, "Where are you going to sleep? How are you going to travel?" And I said, "Well, they have a 15-passenger Dodge van." With a U-Haul trailer, and I'm going to sleep on the floor of Motel 6s because there's not enough beds in the hotel for me to sleep because it was 3 guys per room.
Just what your parents want to hear.
Just what they want to hear.
Exactly, yeah.
So that's what I did, and I fell in love with it. I was like, this is amazing. I was in all of these, I went all across the United States for a 2-month tour and just fell in love with traveling. After that, I met this band, Blink-182, and they took me on this used to be a famous festival tour called the Warped Tour. And I went on tour with them and became really good friends with them and moved in with the bass player and started touring at a different level. They got really big really fast. And we started touring in buses and really doing bigger venues and learning a lot more about the music industry. And I kind of came to I love the road, but I also wanted a girlfriend. I wanted all these things that you couldn't have being on the road because you were gone all the time. And back then, we didn't have FaceTime. We didn't have cell phones. We were just touring. You were gone, and you had a calling card, and you could call from the hotel when you were there.
Payphones around those days, right?
Yeah, exactly. Payphones. And especially over in Europe. And so I left Blink-182, and I was like, I'm gonna try to work in construction. And it just the music industry is like this weird siren that keeps calling you back constantly, especially at the road, And I ended up back on the road with bands like, No Doubt and Cypress Hill and Sugar Ray. And I've worked for, my resume is, the amount of bands I've worked for is impressive. And it's nothing that I did because I'm so great. It's just the way that things moved in my life. I was in the right place at the right time. I had a lot of good people around me. So it was, it's been everything that I've done my whole life, and I really have tried to leave several times. And if you work in the music industry long enough, you will go through that. You will try to leave and try to change direction and be like, God, I just want a normal life. And you go into a store and you're getting checked out by the checker, and you're like, I just want to do what they do. I want to go to work. Yes. I want to do my job, and then I want to go home. And in the music industry, that's just not what you get. You go to work, you live your life, and you start to lose your identity, because your identity becomes whoever you're working for. I mean, I worked for Cypress Hill, and all of a sudden my hat's backwards. I'm wearing Dickies.
Oh, interesting.
I'm like, I work for Blink-182, and I'm wearing tailored Dickies and my white shirt and my creepers and whatever band I worked for. All of a sudden I'm morphing into these bands, and I'm losing myself as I'm going through this and working for these bands. And I think that's a huge thing people deal with working for bands, and it's a huge thing artists deal with when they're developing themselves. They're losing themselves in what they're creating because they're trying to be something else. I always said the biggest difference between a musician and an actor is an actor spends their whole entire career pretending to be other people, whereas a musician spends their whole entire career trying to find out who they are.
It's gold. It's gold listening to you, because I've experienced the same thing. Not to that extent, though. Okay, so out of all of that, number one I got from this was you still love the road. You loved it. It was enjoyable. The big question that I had when you were talking was, though, how did you find yourself? Did you find who you were? Did you find your identity amidst all of those bands? And how did you get there? Or did you never get there? Maybe you didn't.
It took a really long time. I only really found myself in the past, I would say 7 years. A lot of that was from on the road. When you're traveling with bands, there's a backstage rider every day. On that backstage rider is a lot of alcohol, and much like the reality shows, the goal is that if you keep people intoxicated and you keep them going in that way, then they'll get out there and do what you need them to do, and you can control them. Dude. So my life was built on, well, as long as I'm not doing really hard drugs and I'm not a problem, then I can fly under the radar, and I can drink every day, and I can pop some pills because I'm sleeping on buses, and life will be okay. And it wasn't okay. And I lost myself away from the bands. I lost myself in the drugs and alcohol, being on the road. And when I got sober, almost, it'll be in like a week and a half, it'll be 6 years.
Gosh.
I really started to find out who I was and what the music industry was to me. And the music industry is very special to me. I love it. I love the music industry. I love traveling. I love bands. I love music. And I had lost that. I stopped listening to music. I would drive my car in silence. I had a resentment against everyone who made it, and because I didn't as a musician.
Oh, buddy.
So I had this giant resentment.
Right there. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I was watching people on stage, and instead of going, oh man, I'm so happy for them, that's my friend and their band is doing great. It wasn't that. I was watching them on stage and going, that should be me. Why didn't I write that song? Why isn't this me? Why didn't this happen for me? And as I went through this process with myself and really turning my life over to God and saying, what do I need to do here, and what do I need to do to be spiritually healthy in the music industry and still stay here? Or do I have to leave? And that was my question, and my friend was like, well, you just have to pray on it because he'll direct you. And really what I found was I started rooting for other people. And that was a weird thing. And it's a very the American way is to find yours, get yours, step on anyone you need to climb to the top of the ladder. And all of a sudden I went into the world with this mentality of, I'm rooting for everyone else to win. I want you to win. I want your band to do great. I want you to do great at your career. I want everyone at my job to do great. And in that, it lifts you up because that's the way God works, right? If I want the person in complimenting other people when they're not around, it's not about me complimenting them because I'm looking for them to be like, oh, thank you so much.
Right.
it's saying great things about people when they're not there. And I think
you're
that's
taking your eyes off yourself, which is not easy to do. I mean, that's something that's very hard, especially in the music industry. And when you're surrounded by everybody trying to climb.
Right.
It's like having people climb on your back and you're trying to, well, do I just give in and go down and be nothing? What you just said there, that's unbelievable. That stuff right there is the reason why, when I was on the road, and you told me earlier, I saw divorces happen constantly, and in those divorces and in those separations, they were not because there's something abusive going on in the relationships or something like that. It was like the touring and the music and the life that was involved with touring was tearing it apart.
Definitely.
And it was alcohol and it was drugs and it was girls and men, whatever. It was the sexual stuff. It was all of it, and it broke things apart. And so what I'm wondering, for a lot of people that are on the road, is there are a lot of problems, but I believe, and I know you believe, that you can actually do it in a pretty healthy way. I mean, you can do all those things as a insurance adjuster by yourself. If you really get caught up in it, it's still different. I know it's a little different. The road's different than an insurance adjuster, but I'm saying those are temptations all over. What are some ideas, some nuggets of truth that you can deploy when you're on the road to keep you in a healthier place and to help? Because, me, people that love music and being on tour, we want to have a long tail. We want to go a long time. And you can tell these days, bands or lead singers, I won't name names because it doesn't take long, you can go and watch the ones that did not take care of themselves and go, wow, like they've lost their voice, it's pretty rough to look at.
Yep.
And then there are ones that actually are like, man, they must have done some stuff right. And they took care of themselves. So what are some nuggets? Give us some really yummy, really special ideas, thoughts about what can keep you healthy when you're touring.
I think one of the biggest things you can do while you're touring and especially if you're an artist and you're out there and you're trying to make it as an artist, is knowing how to say no. Knowing how to set healthy boundaries with yourself, your moral values, and who you are, because everyone out there wants a piece of you. When you're an artist, right? Every club, and think about every club you play. You're going to play this club and you're making just enough to get by. This club they're selling alcohol, they're selling tickets, and they're only giving you a part of the tickets.
Yep.
So they're making all this money, and if you weren't there, what would they be doing? They would just be a bar, right? So there wouldn't be entertainment to bring people in. They're charging for parking, they're charging for all of these things. Everyone wants a piece of you, so they're trying to get you to bend your will to theirs. And so if going out there and being able to say no, and not no in a rude way or being like, no, I'm not doing that, but instead coming at things as like, hey, you know what, I'm not going to do that, but here's what I can do for you, right? That
sounds like a business. That sounds like a boundary, but it's also a business move.
Very much.
That's also like a one-on-one, emotionally calm and thoughtful. And negotiate, almost like a negotiation in a sense.
It is.
And I bet you find people, I know I did in clubs, I found people that I'm like, there's no way I'm winning this. This person is their own toxic person.
Right.
They've got issues they've got to deal with. This is not going to work. And then there was ones that I actually could sit, and I'm trying to reflect off what you're saying in real time, that I would sit down and go, that's not going to work, and that's not going to work. I mean, I remember this one time, and I was a little older when I was on the road. I think we were in Colorado playing a show in a fairly large venue. Right away on the rider, they came in and they said, what do you want to stock us the fridge full of? And again, to be honest, I wasn't 21. I wasn't 25. I was early 30s. And we said, we're not here to drink, we're here to play. You paid us to play, and we're going to do that. We'll take a six-pack or something, put that in the fridge. And they were like, what? Are you kidding me? I said, yeah, we're here to play. So since we're doing that, they respected us, and it actually changed the negotiation of the door. It changed the negotiation of where just little things, because we were business people. We were now respectable, and they respected that.
Yes.
Rather than looking at us as these little artists that will do whatever I tell them to do, and I can control them by giving them alcohol.
Right.
Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
That was really, really helpful to really realize that. The thing that changes what you do, and you understand, is the revelation. You can be in the business I know a lot of people that have been in the music business, and they're 50, 60 years old. They're still toxic people.
Oh, yeah.
And they still perpetuate toxicity in their artist. And the revelation of what you know which is I've been on the road, I know what's good and what's bad, and now I know how to navigate it. This is gold. And artists need to hear this. Yeah.
It's been a huge change in my life. And I thought I was leaving the music industry because I was like, how could I possibly be sober and go on the road? This can't work. I've never known how to do that. It had been when I got sober, I had been touring for 24 years. And I was like, how am I going to do this and go out and be on a 48-foot bus with 8 other people that are drinking constantly, with a bus full of alcohol, that are smoking weed because that's allowed on the bus.
Yeah.
How am I going to do this?
Wow.
And my sponsor told me, he goes, how are you going to do this? Is you're going to look to God. Mm-hmm. He goes, that's what you're going to do. And you're going to keep connection. And
keep connection.
Keep connection. When you're on the road,
Yep.
connect with the people that love you, because the people that you're traveling with, and trust me, I've seen all the bands and all the breakups, and just from when Blink-182 broke up, like they were all the best of friends, to when now they got back together, which was amazing, and really saw the light of like, these were, I guess they were my friends. These guys were my friends. I grew up with them. And when you get out on the road and you start, if you're a hired musician especially, you're like, oh, this is my new family. Maybe that's not your new family, because, and especially not your new family that you should be putting ahead of your actual family. You need to connect with the people at home. You need to stay connected with your friends, keep communicating with them, keep making the phone calls, because to be healthy on the road requires connection with people that love you. It's just it's human nature. We are people that need connection. We humans need connection. And when we're out there, I would be on tour on an arena tour with 30,000 people every night, and hundreds of people backstage, and all of these people everywhere, and 15 buses, and you'd have all these people there, and I was alone and depressed. How do you be alone? That's where true depression is coming in, was when you're surrounded by people and you still feel alone.
Some nuggets right there. Stay connected to the people that love you. That's what I picked up on that.
Yes.
Being vulnerable. And this sounds like a psychology class. It's really not. This is real life. This is like staying connected to people, being honest and authentic with who you are, and being real. And don't let people tell you who you are. A manager can tell you who you are. A label will tell you who you are. Social media will tell you all of these things, and they will try to tell you. And some of them aren't even meaning to. They're just doing it.
That's what they're doing.
That's some serious nuggets right there. All right, give us a couple life experiences, a couple stories of maybe some bands, don't say names, that you saw really kind of go from good kind of down, or they kind of figured things out. They went, man, I'm not going to do this anymore, because this is really not going to help my career, and I'm going to make some changes and come back. Are there any stories like that?
Yeah, I mean, I have a few. There was a band I worked for, Sugar Ray, and the bass player, at the time I was a bass, drum, and guitar tech, and the bass player all of a sudden like turned to Jesus, and I'm putting Jesus fishes on his basses, right? And the rest of the band kind of had a problem with it, because they weren't out there promoting this. They were out there promoting themselves. And
Gotcha.
And it wasn't that they had a problem with his faith. It was that they had a problem with promoting it through their channel, right?
Gotcha.
On stage and all of this. And he's still a good friend of mine. And that was a band that they were the biggest partying band I'd ever toured with.
Okay.
They had a bar on stage that you could walk up to during the show, like as a worker. You walk up and you get yourself a margarita, or get yourself a Jack and Coke, and they were just built around that. As far as like, I didn't tour in the 80s, because I'm 47 years old now, so I'm not quite 80s. I'm 90s.
Yep.
90s and forward. It was the closest thing to those videos that you see of like Motley Crue touring in the 80s. They really lived that life.
Got you.
And to see him make that change in his life, and I was at his wedding. He got married. He has I think 5 beautiful boys, and lives in Costa Mesa, and he's an amazing person. Him and his wife are both amazing people, and watching him turn his life around was like, it was something to look to like, wow, look at this. What
was the catalyst to that? What made it? Where was he before that, and what happened to?
I mean, I think he was in a band that was all about drinking and using and partying, and he was still in the band, but making this huge turn in his life towards family and being a dad. I watched him become, instead of just being a bass player, he was he was a dad and a husband.
Wow.
First. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And at the time, I don't think I could see it that way because I was so caught up in myself.
Gotcha.
But looking back on it, it was very much something I looked up to, and that helped me later on when I had to make those decisions in my life. Is I would look back at what he did and how he did it he did it unapologetically.
Okay.
Right? He very much
He found his identity.
He found his identity.
Yeah.
And that's huge. And to see that the other people in your life, when you start finding your identity and finding who you are they're not going to like you for this. It's not a quality that they're going to be.
We can't go party with you no more.
Yeah, I'm so proud of you. This is so great for you. It's the people that see you doing this are going to be like, you're threatening them.
Yeah, right.
And then also you're shedding light on things in their lives, which no one wants to see. Right.
No one wouldn't want to deal with, especially if we're having fun or we're numbing something in our life. That's of course not. No, that's
absolutely.
Like, I don't want to hear about that. What are some of the evidences? What is the evidence? What is the evidence of living life like your buddy on the road in a healthy way? What were some things that? What helped him? What did he enjoy? Was it more enjoyable on the road? Was he a better musician?
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the things that impacted him?
He was a better musician. Think about how much time you spend, and I thought about how much time I spent. You have lots of free time on the road. People think that you're like, oh, you're constantly going. Well, you are. You're constantly going. You're in a tour bus. You're in an airport. You're on a plane. Whatever you're doing. You're in a hotel room. But you have a good amount of free time. You get to decide how you're going to spend that free time. You have an itinerary that every day tells you exactly what to do and where to be. But in those spaces, you get to decide what to do. So there's some people that just sit around and do nothing and watch mindless television. There's some people that go down and drink at the hotel bar and constantly are in that mode, or going out to find the new club to go to or the new bar to go to. And what I saw him doing is he found another hobby. Find another creative path, because if you're a musician and you're creating on the road and you're doing this, find something else to create. So he became a video editor and started filming all this stuff and editing stuff. And it wasn't in the time where you could do it on your phone. Yeah. He was like doing real stuff, and he got really, really good at it. He ended up directing a video for my band later on that I was in.
No way.
And I saw him taking his time to do that and taking the time to become better at bass. And he did become way better at bass, because all of a sudden your free time is spent practicing that.
Yeah.
You know, I think as a musician, and I've been singing on stage since I was probably 5 years old with my dad in front of a lot of people. At school, singing in front of thousands of people, singing Rocky Top and The Gambler, right?
I know it.
And,
yes.
And actually with the same guitar that I play worship with now.
Wow.
And when you're doing those things and you're and you're performing, if you don't find another creative outlet also, then I started to get lost in it, where I was like, okay, well, if I don't do these things, then I can't be creative.
Right.
If I can't get a buzz on, I can't be creative. If I can't, there's no way I'm going on stage like this. I need 2 of these waters, and I need an emergency, and I need this. I need no green M&Ms in the dressing room. All of a sudden, there's these things that you're putting in, that you're putting in your path. And I think I heard it's the things that are in between you and God, or in between you and what you want to do. And all of these things are laid out, and you're like, if I don't do these, and it starts to get really like dark. Like, if I don't do this, if I'm not wearing this shirt, I have to wear these specific things. And I think they deal with that as athletes too, right? If I have to wear these socks because we went to the Super Bowl. Like, there's nothing like that should be in your way. It is. It's a trap. Yeah. There's nothing like that should be in your way. Creative people are very interesting, and I'm a creative person, but I'm also a very analytical person. I'm an accountant.
Yeah.
But creative people need to be creative in all outlets, and they will use their creativity in everything they do. You could have them rearrange chairs in a room, and it will be creative.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's going to come out. The creativity is going to come out. It's like health and unhealth. It's coming out either way. Okay, let's talk a little bit about, that's really good stuff, man. Thank you. That's the meat and the potatoes of being a touring artist or anybody on the road and being healthy? We can go deep diving into making budgets for touring, and that can go so deep. As you said earlier, you're dealing with multi-million-dollar budgets, and you're dealing with just a massive amount of line items,
right.
like all of those things. But what are some very practical, simple ideas and thoughts of how to make a budget for touring? Okay. And, if an artist is going out, let's say they're just going to do coffee houses, and they're going to go 300 miles and they're going to hit 5 coffee houses. Let's say we're here in Nashville, so let's say they go up to Lexington, and then let's say they go over down to Paducah, and they come back to, they do a triangle.
Right.
What is a practical way to make a budget, just to really help people to not trip up on some very simple ideas or things when it comes to money and budgeting?
The simplest way is you need to start by the essentials. The essentials are you need to get from point A to point B. So the essentials are transportation and fuel, number one. So budget that out. Know what you're spending and know that there's no way to get around paying for these things.
That's good. No way to get around it.
No way to get around it. You're paying for them. The other one is, where are you going to stay? Mm-hmm. Where are you going to sleep? It's nice to get it in advance. If you have a lot of people on the road, you want to get that done in advance because a lot of places are sold out. Mm-hmm. But if it's just a few of you traveling, then you can do it while you're on the road and use the terrestrial apps on your phone, Hotels Tonight, whatever, and find really good deals. And that's money just wasted when you spend too much on a hotel room. So if I can get this hotel room for $125, but all of a sudden I'm not planning, so I'm spending $425, that's just money wasted.
Preparation, pre-production.
Yeah, it's very important. Yep. Other than that, there's all the normal. You have to eat, right? Mm-hmm. Aside from just having food at the venue, you have to eat. So you give yourself some sort of a per diem that you plan out and that you know.
What's the average per diem now? What would you say? Just given I know you're working with huge tours. I know,
right? They vary anywhere from $25 a day all the way up to $50 a day in the U.S. up to $75 a day internationally.
Okay.
Because it's more expensive internationally, obviously, and you're far away from home, and not everything's open all the time.
Yeah.
But
that's great.
You need to budget that. Like personally, when you're on the road, you need to budget that. I had the bass player for the Vandals, the first tour I went on. He would save his per diems. Okay. And I just found my mom just brought me some stuff home and a bunch of pictures, like old school pictures, not on your phone, like old school pictures that we took with like throwaway cameras. And she brought it, and I was like, what is this hotel? And it was the Plaza Hotel in New York. And I remember he had saved up his per diems so that he could get us one room at the Plaza for all 6 of us.
No way.
And we parked our 15-passenger van with a trailer outside. I had to parallel park it at 18 years old outside the Plaza.
That's amazing.
And
that's where the whole
Home Alone thing was done.
Yeah.
And it was so cool, and it was such a great experience. And you need those experiences on the road.
Yeah.
That's what you're out there for.
Yes.
You're out there to see these cool things and to do this fun stuff. If you live your life on the road, just going from club to club and only knowing the club, it gets very, very lonely and it's very dark. You need to experience all the cool things. Stop off and see the world's largest ball of twine.
Right.
You're right? Like, go see that. That's fun. Stop off at the giant Buc-ee's and go through it for, a half an hour.
Yes.
This is the reason you're out there. This is the reason that you should be doing this.
Yes.
Is to see the world. The world is a very interesting place.
What I'm hearing from that, too, is a lot of preparation is what gives you that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Because if you're not prepared, you might blow the $400 on 2 rooms. You're like, dang it, we could have spent a lot less and went to stay at the Plaza Hotel.
Exactly. And, budgets can get exponentially more complicated as you go along, right? Once you start having tour buses, which average about $2,000 a day with the driver, and or in flights. Flights are a big one.
Yes.
Flights are expensive, and trailers. Purchasing these things, is it better to purchase it or is it better to rent it? Is it better to rent the U-Haul or is it better to go buy the trailer and then all of a sudden all of the expense is mine?
Yes.
Right? Is it better for me to rent a van for this tour and go ahead and calculate that into my budget? Or is it better for me to go buy a van and make monthly payments on this van?
Yes.
Because I'm going to be doing enough shows.
Right. Good call. And that just depends on how many shows you're doing and
all of it.
How much you want to put on maintenance and how much you want to put on maintenance.
Yep.
And how much you want to pay on like all of that stuff. You got to think about those things. When you're back home, you got to be maintaining a van. Yep. I mean, you know what I mean?
Well, that's what you become when you travel. And I love hiring tour managers to do almost anything. The tour manager they're the accountant on the road. They keep track of all the money. They settle all the shows. They are the travel agent because they're buying all the flights. They're getting you from point A to point B. Also, if they're in a van, they've learned how to be the mechanic. Right.
Yes.
I've fixed minivans on the side of the road going, one specific was just Beaumont, Texas to New Orleans in the middle of nowhere. There's no cell phones. There's no nothing. And you're having to get a 1982 Dodge van started with the engine in the middle, and you're pouring gas into the carburetor, and you just become that person that can kind of do everything. You have to learn how to do everything. You have to learn how to change a tire on a van, how to change a tire on a trailer, how to hook up trailers, how to load up a trailer. A lot of people forget that, but if you load up the trailer wrong, it becomes a death trap on the road. Because if you put too much weight towards the back of a trailer, which is a very simple thing, and it's just physics, but we don't think about it. And so you're like, oh, well, I'll just load this stuff last because it's the last stuff out. Well, that doesn't necessarily work. If you put all your heavy stuff on the end of the trailer, all of a sudden it'll swing that trailer when you get going too fast, and you'll crash.
That's a big deal.
It's a big deal, but people don't think
Put the weight over the tires. Is that
Put the weight over the tires or in the front near the
front?
edge. Yeah.
That's a lifesaver, actually. That might save some people's lives. Big question for you. One of the biggest things I hear artists say is, I need a band. I got to find a band. But how do I pay them? And how do I want to make sure they stay with me, and you want to honor them, and you want to be kind, and you want to pay them well. But if you're doing all the work, they probably shouldn't be making what you're making. So what are some of the best arrangements you've seen in budding artist entrepreneurs, is what they are? And what are some really bad arrangements and really good arrangements you've seen when it comes to paying your band and taking care of them on the road?
Well, there's two different parts to this. There's the band that is like, this is my band. It's, it's the Jason Wyatt band, right? And you're like, I'm running everything here, and everyone is hired and I'm paying them, right? That is tough because then it all falls on you. So it's your company, you're paying them. They're either employees or they're independent contractors, and you pay them whatever they get. Hard to keep bands that way because at the beginning, it's hard to make enough money to be able to pay them and be able to pay all those other expenses on the road. You're paying for the fuel, paying for the flights, you're paying all of their salaries, plus you're paying their per diem. All the expenses fall on you. And this is all coming out. Aside from an agent or manager getting their commission, right? Hopefully you've worked out a better deal with them where they're negotiating, but agents always take 10% unless you get gigantic. Right. An agent is 10%, and they take it right off the top of everything you get touring. I've seen it done a few other ways where there's the band, which everybody is part owner of the company, right? So if there's 4 people,
you're splitting it.
We're splitting it. We're all equal parts to an LLC, a limited liability corporation. We basically take equal draws from that company, because in an LLC, you have to take an equal draw. At the end of the year, I can't, in an LLC, if we were all 4 in an LLC, I couldn't take a $10,000 draw and give you 5 and the other guy's 5. Everyone has to take the equal amount every time money is taken. It's required by the IRS. It's required by law. So I think it's important for everyone to start a company with these things and do things legally, especially because when you're going and playing these clubs, they're paying you and they're now declaring it. It used to be you'd get like cash at a club. I'm sure you'd done a ton of it. I'd done a ton of it.
Oh, yeah.
But back in the day, you'd go play these clubs and the guy's like, yeah, he'd pull it right out of the register at the bar, and he's like, he's breaking you off like $500. Yes. He's like, here you go for the night. I think the government got hip to that, and no one was okay with it, especially with the way everything's digital now.
Yep.
And we're doing things through Venmo and all these different apps. So it's important to go on LegalZoom, spend $1,000, create your LLC, file, get your articles of incorporation, do your once a year joke meeting that you have to do, right? That isn't a real meeting, but it is a meeting, and do it properly. And just the government will get you if you don't pay your taxes. And I think we've seen that a lot in bands from the 80s, from the 70s that were doing this, and it was the Wild West out there. We were just dropping cash like crazy.
Totally.
But do it correctly and pay your taxes and pay your state taxes. You know, in places like Massachusetts, they charge a state tax on any money that's made for non-residents. Same with Wisconsin. Same with Missouri.
So great to know,
like all of these places, there's state taxes that are taken out of the money that you make, and then you have to file taxes in those states. So that's part of being a traveling musician, is doing this and doing your due diligence.
It's a lot of work. That takes the time.
It's a ton of work, and it's not fun work.
Right.
It's not anything anybody wants to do, which is why I became an accountant.
Got you.
For the music industry, was because I was like, oh, nobody wants to do this.
Yes.
So I'll do this. I understand it. The another way that I've seen that works really, really well, if you're a starting musician and you're like, you know what, I don't have the money to pay these musicians. How am I going to pay it? Because not everyone has that.
No, right.
You know, most starting musicians have another job, some sort of job they have that allows them to leave for specific amounts of time, or they're taking their paid time off or whatever they're doing, and then they're having to pay this out of their own pocket.
Yep.
And they just don't have the money to pay these musicians what these musicians would want if they were paid musicians. Right? Or you're having to sacrifice the quality of your musicians to get the musicians you can afford. So where do you balance this out?
Yes.
And so what I've seen work is on the new level is going, hey, you know what? I know that this is my band and it's my name on it. I need to make these people part of the band. I need to make them a percentage member of this band, and an equal percentage for touring, because regardless of whether you're writing all the songs and you're the one that's the leader of the band and you're doing all that, none of it works without them. So as far as touring income is concerned, they should not only be a part of all the revenue that's made, but all the expense that's spent.
So you like the idea of splitting it up. Now, what happens if you are doing a lot of the work, preparation, you're doing advancing, you're doing all of that, and they're not, and they just step in on the stage and they just go?
It varies at different levels. When you get to the level where you're making a lot of money, you're hiring a tour manager that's doing all of that.
Okay.
Right. And there's always going to be somebody if you're going to sit there in a band and be like, well, I'm doing more work than him, and start like nitpicking between little things, then you're going to drive yourself insane.
Yeah.
You need to really go into it as like, I'm doing what I'm doing because this is what I love and this is what I'm doing. Not because I'm comparing it to what the drummer's doing, right?
So that's in a band setting. As a solo artist, that's a different thing, right?
Yeah.
When you're paying players to come out with you.
Definitely.
How does that setup look for you? What have you seen work with that setup? A solo person.
A solo person, it's once you're to the point where you're paying players to come play for you, the best way I've seen it work is here in Nashville, actually. And because Nashville has a lot of bands that are backing bands, where in Hollywood, they don't have that. You're either in a band because everyone wants to be the lead singer, right? Especially the drummer, and or you're just a musician, a hired musician. We call them hired guns.
Yes.
Right. Hired guns, or you're a studio guy. There's two different kinds. There's the hired gun that'll go on the road, and he's got the look, and he's rock and roll, and he's got tattoos everywhere, and he totally plays the part. And then there's the studio guy, which looks like your college professor.
Totally.
But he kills it, and he's amazing. He sounds incredible. But here they have actual bands that are playing on Broadway and doing this, and they'll come out and they'll be your backup band. So I've negotiated deals here in Nashville with artists where I've been like, hey, I got an idea. We will add the name of your band to the advertisement, and you're the backing band, and we'll pay you as a band this amount, which is more than you would get paid anywhere else you were playing.
Okay.
And
that's interesting.
And so that's been a really interesting thing that I only learned when I came here.
Okay.
Is because before it was always about finding each individual player, and then you got to go in and do rehearsals, and you have to pay for this, and you have to make sure they vibe.
Yes.
And it's
There's
hard.
a lot to it.
Yeah, and
it's a great idea.
And every time someone leaves, and I'm sure if you're a musician and you play with hired musicians or you play with band members, everyone knows this struggle. When somebody leaves the band, or when you have to find somebody else to play, heart-wrenching. It's so hard. You're having to find this person to come in and fill this spot where you have this vibe with this other person and everything's good. Filling a spot like that is really, really difficult. It takes money.
It does, yeah.
Time and money. and you start getting resentful because you have to do that. You're like, oh, why am I having to go? I know these songs. I've rehearsed them a million times, and I'm having to rehearse them again so that John, the guitar player, can now learn these songs because Bob decided to go off and go on vacation. Like it's a weird thing, and you miss a lot of stuff. You miss a lot of things doing these things in bands and as a leader. Because you feel like you're the one I always have to be here. The show's not going to happen if the lead singer's not there, so I'm always here. So why am I not getting more? And this is the lead singer syndrome they talk about in the music industry. This is what happens. The lead singer eventually goes on to be like, well, the show doesn't happen if I'm not here, so I should be getting a majority share of everything. And then the bands start to implode and people start to leave, and then next thing you know, you've got a lead singer with a bunch of people that you don't know, and it was this band that you really love.
Good.
And
it's good. It's good insight. Man, I can't tell you, and I'm serious, how great the information, your heart, your experience, how much we appreciate you coming in and sharing that with everybody. This is, and I mean this is gold. This is usable. It's something that people can take it with them and think about it and apply to them right now if they're on tour. So we appreciate you coming out, Mr. Derek Gordon. All of the wealth of knowledge. When I have you come back.
Absolutely.
Because it's fun to talk with you, and it's fun to hear your stories, but your knowledge base and your experience is very, very helpful. So thanks for coming out.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. Make sure you like and subscribe to The Nashville Way. And if you're interested in more content, check out the other videos we have on the channel.